This is my old X56 HOTAS that was recently replaced with a new set from Whirlpool. I've been playing with this for about 2 years now, and I thought I would give you my thoughts on it after 2 years of use. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another review with Down to Earth Astronomy. So, my old X56. I have, at least 1,000+ hours of flying on this stick. So I think it's safe to say that I got quite familiar with it over the last 2 years. And I wanted to give you a review of what I think here 2 years later. I did do an initial review of it right after I got it, but I just wanted to talk about how it has held up over the last couple of years. First of all, in terms of physical wear and tear, there hasn't really been a lot. The only thing that has broken on it was it did come with some kind of plate you could clamp on here to the palm rest that was clamped on with small plastic things that would click around it here. Those broke off and that plate was just unusable because it couldn't get sitting on it anymore. Also after about a year's worth of use, the stick began to develop quite a bit of squeaking, and it did quite a bit of noises and grinding when you moved it around. However, by just adding a little bit of grease on the bottom of the stick down here where the actual contacts with the bottom, as you can see now, or can hear now, there are very little sounds coming from the stick, and it moves a lot smoother now. So I basically just have to reapply a little bit of grease after about a year of use. Of other things that I've noticed is it used to have rubber feet, but again, after 2 years of use, the main stick here now has 2 rubber feet left on it, and the base here has also just 2. So they had a tendency to fall off, making the joystick, as you can see here, a lot more slippery. This one is actually so worn that it's not really gripping anymore. There's only one of these really gripping. You can see here, moving this around, it slides around the table quite a lot, and I had to find something to put the joystick on that wasn't just a slippery table surface. Otherwise, it would simply just slide around on the desk too much. The same with the throttle here. You can see same issue here, where there's only really one corner that's properly gripping to the table. Of course, this can just be resolved by buying some new rubber feet and putting on the joystick. Pretty cheap fix if you get into the issue, but I just thought I would mention that those are, was of course an issue for me. Also worth mentioning, as you can see here, this is the blue version, meaning this is the Cytec branded one. Logitech is making one now after they bought Cytec, which is all the blue paint has been replaced with a more black looking paint job. I believe it's pretty much the same stick, just changed the looks of it slightly. See some of the paint job being a little bit roughed up. It was like that when you got it. It's part of the design that it looks a little roughed up. So that's not because this has been getting worn off or anything like that. Other than that, it's held up pretty well. You can probably see here on the throttle itself that the top coat on top of the plastic has worn off here, where my hand has been constantly moving up and down as I was moving the throttle. Though I must say, when I play, I do have a tendency to constantly, when I'm not using the throttle, to rest my hand on the throttle like this. Meaning, of course, I would be making this motion here quite a few times doing gameplay, which of course explains why I have this spot here being worn down. That being said, it's not uncomfortable to use. It's just slightly different texture, and everything else is working just fine. I've had no issues with it in terms of hardware failure. I still don't want to comment on the software side. This was one of my main complaints in my initial review, where I thought the software was, well, to put it lightly, very bad. You get used to it, I must say. I mean, one of the main issues I had when I originally got this stick was if you don't get it into, I don't know why, it just likes specific USB ports. And if you don't, I don't know if it's because they're high powered enough. I mean, I've sometimes had them not work in USB 3 ports, but work fine in USB 2 ports. And it's really, really weird. Sometimes when you just plug it into some USB ports, it just decides that, nope, I'm not gonna be playing nicely, and it's just gonna get ghost presses left and right. But again, eventually people have different solutions for it. I found 2 USB ports on my motherboard that work. Some people use a powered external USB hub, so they make sure they get enough power to the stick. I've seen people put in additional USB cards in a PCI Express slot also to ensure they get enough power. Whatever make it work. I mean, everybody I know has all found a combination of USB port that works, but just keep in mind that sometimes, at least this one, did have some issues with ghost presses if it didn't get into the right USB port. The software itself, well, after you get it calibrated, it's okay. However, the stick specifically would have an issue where from time to time, when you started up the game, it would think the stick was in that corner down there, and it would just stay there regardless of where you move the stick. It would just think that the stick was always all the way in the corner. All you really had to do was just to go in and recalibrate the axis for the joystick, but it was a bit of an inconvenience that you would start up the game and then all of a sudden the stick was in a weird position and your ship was spinning out of control as soon as you took off from the landing pad. Recalibration doesn't take long, it's just you have to get used to it, and it's not something that's happened a lot. I think in the 2 years I've had it, I probably have to do this, I don't know, 6-8 times, something like that. So maybe something that will happen like, let's say 4 times a year at the worst. So it's not bad, but it's just something I want to mention that there seems to be something with the driver software. It's not a hardware issue because just going in and recalibrating the joystick and it works just fine again for some months until you have to go into it again. So of course the big question is here, 2 years down the line, would I recommend this stick? Well, it's not because you get used to it. Once you find the right USB port, you get used to the every other month go in. It's just a little quirky. It's a decent stick. It's not a bad HOTAS. However, if you look at what's out there as alternatives, I mean, we have something like the X52 Pro, which is price range rise, not too different from this. I think I can't remember the exact prices on it, but I think if I were to go out and buy a HOTAS in this price range, I would probably go and look at the X52 Pro rather than the X56. It's my personal preference. I like that stick more than I did this. I was playing with the X52 Pro before I played with the X56 here. So I would probably still go back to that one. And I know there's also a ton of offerings from Thrustmaster. I've never really tried any of those sticks, so I can't really give any recommendations on what's available there. But at least if you're looking at something like the X56 or the X52 Pro, my recommendations is still with the X52 Pro. However, of course, I know the X52 Pro doesn't have the same number of button switches and dials as you do get here on the X56. But there are plenty of other opportunities if you want to offload some of the buttons to avoid double key presses. One thing that springs to mind is something like GameGlass, where you can offload a lot of the ship functionality to a tablet that you can have next to you. And I think that's a great solution if you're playing on a joystick where you feel like you have to begin to do combination presses in order to get all the functionality that you want. Then offloading some of it to something like GameGlass, I think, is a great option. That's gonna be it, guys. I really hope you found this 2-year review useful. If you did, give a like, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.